tonight, or maybe after a long day of school or whatever you do, you probably go home and you watch Netflix, maybe you play video games, pose as the next Instagram food model, or whatever you guys do. But the key thing is you all are using the internet when you're doing these things. And I'm here to tell you that the internet is actually under attack in a big way. So for the next 30 days, our FCC, our Federal Communications Commission, is going to be taking public comment on an idea called net neutrality and the repealing of Title II. Now, net neutrality, for anyone who's using the internet right now, it was an important phrase. And tonight, I'm going to be talking about the dangers of the repealing of Title II, what it is, how it affects us as users, who is doing it, and what we as citizens can do to stop it. So first we have to understand what net neutrality is in order to understand how it affects us. So net neutrality is a basis idea of that there is zero bias by your internet service provider, such as Verizon or AT&T, and what content they can give you, how fast they can give it to you. So in 2010, Verizon Wireless sued the FCC and actually won. This is extremely important because they said that they didn't have the authority to regulate the internet providers, and it forced the FCC to actually reclassify this service provider as a Title II, which gave it super heavy regulations. The ADA actually says that Title II is 131 pages of regulation, and it basically restates what your internet service provider can legally do to the internet they are providing you. It's really important that Verizon actually sued them, but the case was reversed on themselves when FCC actually granted it the Title II status, which is very rare. It is a non-discriminatory act. So this is what they can't do under Title II. They can't throttle your service, which is slowing down your applications such as Netflix, your websites that you view. They can't censor your material, what you're seeing and like how you see it, and even in what context do you see it. So, and they also have strict limitations on market competition. This stops big companies swallowing up small companies in local areas without a lot of competition. So it helps those small businesses get started and actually grow. And they also have protections against priority paid access, such as your large companies paying huge sums of money to these providers to speed up their access and slow down others, which is extremely important. Now, we are being extremely misled by our corporations at large in our community. AT&T, for example, is running a $9 million ad on Twitter. You may have seen this. They're renaming the issue, calling it an open and free internet, saying they have no idea what any of us are talking about. They're not interested in it. But underlining it says that net neutrality does not equal Title II, and it's just incorrect. Now, they have a lot to gain from this. They are going to be making billions and billions of dollars if Title II is repealed, because large corporations are going to be paying them huge sums of money to speed up their services. Now, they're trying to make this issue boring and basically boil it down to like super basic terms and policies and sweep it under the rug really fast before anyone could do anything about it. We only have 30 days left for public comment, and almost no one knows the issue that we're talking about. Now, this is a slippery slope. Our internet essential freedoms are actually under attack in a big way. And if the public doesn't rise like they did in 2015, we could be losing Title II. Now, what can come of the repeal? So Title II basically is a non-discriminating act for the best public interest. Now, the Free Press Advocacy said that it would become a closed-down network where cable and phone companies call the shots and decide what you see and when you see it. There are 4 major providers. That is Comcast, Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T. Now, a great example of an illegal act that would be illegal today after 2015, but this was in 2007. Now, they released a wallet app, these providers, called ISIS, which is probably why you don't see it, because that's a terrible name. But Google Wallet actually released their own app. Now, this Google Wallet app was banned on all of our providers' phones, either being slowed down in the App Store or not appearing at all, because they were marketing their own wallet app. So they were, in 2007, they were doing these illegal practices today, after 2015, but it would become legal if Title II was repealed. Now, according to the ACLU, broadband providers have both the incentive and the ability to interfere with the internet. In fact, real abuses happened consistently before the FCC put in its network protections in place. So, a couple years ago, Verizon actually censored a pro-abortion group, limiting their calls and text messaging, slowing down pictures on their websites, and actually slowing down some of their websites completely, blocking access. This is illegal today, but in 30 days it could become perfectly legal for a service provider to do this. AT&T actually censored 13 seconds of a Kid Rock concert muting it because it had unflattering representation of the current president, George W. Bush. Now, they cited technical issues, said that they would restore the 13 seconds, but never did, saying it was lost forever. Now, according to the Washington Post, Verizon Wireless actually suing the FCC said this, that we are deeply concerned by the FCC's assertion of broadband authority to impose sweeping and unneeded regulation. Now, our internet companies are playing innocent. Year after year, they were doing these practices, such as our example of the Google Wallet, marketing their own app while not giving us the access to all the choices. And this is wrong on so many levels. As consumers, we are being limited without knowing it, to the benefit of these companies making the money. Now, who would do this? So about 3 months ago, our current president appointed a new head of the FCC, which is the practice by most. His name is Ajit Pai, and he is a former Verizon lawyer and a strict opponent of Title II. Now he's come into the office and he's trying to deregulate it heavily. And he said that in an FCC press conference that the marketplace is nothing like it was in 1975, which is true. 2017 technology is a lot more advanced. And he was referring to the conversation that Title II hasn't been updated since 1986, which is also true. But deregulating the entire industry because you are too lazy to update or amend an already existing law, in my opinion, is just not a good enough excuse. You could create an entirely new set of laws for ISPs, but deregulating a whole industry is not the solution. Now, in the same interview, he was given the hypothetical of Comcast making a movie, putting it out there, and increasing the rate of speed and lowering Netflix's for financial gain. And he said that hypotheticals is important to realize that they're just hypotheticals. There is no market evidence of any of this happening. That is just not true. There is case after case of these service providers marketing their own stuff or creating what we call bidding wars. Netflix and Hulu, for example, could be entered into a bidding war over which service gets faster. Your Netflix at home could be a lot slower than your Hulu, making it more likely for you to watch Hulu and just never turn Netflix on again. These companies are making billions and billions of dollars at the detriment to us. Now, President Trump in a tweet said that in 2010, like he does, they said Obama's attacks on the internet is another top-down power grab. Net neutrality is the fairness doctrine, which targets the conservative media. This is just the exact opposite of what net neutrality does. It actually gives an equal outlet to any website you go to, whether it be liberal or conservative. And it's extremely important to realize that his legislative power and his appointment of people like the head of the FCC without realizing what the fairness doctrine is or net neutrality is extremely dangerous. And our internet has become a place of extreme information, and it is without control of what we are viewing and how we are viewing it. And we cannot allow this to be taken away because for the gain of financial benefit of 4 major companies. Now, net neutrality is the key to internet freedom. Ajit Pai would have you believe that service providers have your back, they have your best interest in mind. I want them to be held accountable for this. That for the next 30 days, the FCC is going to be taking public comment about whether or not to repeal Title II and net neutrality in general. And our input is vital. Verizon and AT&T are trying to sweep this issue under the rug, boring it down with policy terms and paperwork, but while creating $9 million ads on our social media to subliminally influence our opinion on it. And a long-term shaping of our views is dangerous without recourse and regulation. And so the FCC, on their main website, on their front page, has a forum that you can go and comment on net neutrality. And I implore you to go and say, we want Title II. That less regulation is not to the benefit of the consumer. Thank you.